Okay, this is a very famous verse. Dhenosmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tadha dehantra prapte dhiras tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Purport. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. Thus, individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering, according to one's work in life. So, Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So, in either case, there was no cause for lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called Dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable against the principle of the supreme souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist eternally, sanatana, and are called shara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the supersoul, who is present in each and every individual body and is known as the Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the fourth chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy, Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted the Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity, Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya. So, in this purport and this verse, Srila Prabhupada is elaborating the point Lord Krishna is making that how the body is always changing, goes from boyhood to youth to old age. And yesterday, our friend Girdhari Prabhu, he shared this verse from, he shared the pastime of Jar Bharat or Bharat Maharaj, who went through multiple lifetimes, and in each lifetime he remembered what happened to his past lifetime. There are many such instances described in the Bhagavatam, but I would like to quote today the pastime or the history of Gajendra. So Gajendra, we all know, was described in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 2, chapter 3, and 4. And in these three chapters, we get to hear Gajendra's story and then Gajendra's prayer for protection. This is a very powerful passage because in this passage, it is shown that how, I'll read some passages from there. We will get to hear how even an animal can what do you call benefit from his past life of devotion. So, first of all, we'll hear a little bit about his history, what happened to him. So, Gajendra was hanging out in a beautiful lake next to a Trikuta mountain. This is text number 19, 13 in second chapter. And there he was hanging out with his wives. So let's see what happens there when he was hanging out with his wives and children. Surrounded by herds other elephants, including females. Of course, you want to show off yourself in front of females. And followed by the younger ones, Gajapati, the leader of the elephants, made Trikuta mountain tremble all around because of the weight of his body. He was perspiring, liquor dripped from his mouth, and his vision was overwhelmed by intoxication. He was being served by bumblebees who drank honey, and from a distance he could smell the dust of lotus flowers, which was carried from the lake by the breeze. Thus, surrounded by his associates who were afflicted by thirst, he soon arrived at the bank of the lake. So this is the dream of any karmi, you know, to have wives, liquor, and beautiful fragrances all around you, isn't it, bro?
Not just one wife,
Many.
hundreds. This is a heavenly region outside of the central island of Jambudweep.
But this is the
All the
dream.
other dweepas are like heavenly regions.
And later, I'll introduce this. So this is the dream world for any karmi. The king of elephants entered the lake, bathed thoroughly, and was relieved of his fatigue. Then, with the aid of his trunk, he drank the cold, clear nectarian water, which was mixed with the dust of lotus flowers and water lilies, until he was fully satisfied. Like a human being who lacks spiritual knowledge and is too attached to the members of his family, the elephant, being illusioned by external energy of Krishna, had his wives and children bathe and drink the water. Indeed, he raised water from the lake with his trunk and spread it over them. He did not mind the hard labor involved in this endeavor. Normal karmi, they're very happy that they can feed their children, take them out for this and that. Very happy. But by the arrangement of providence, O king, a strong crocodile was angry at the elephant and attacked the elephant's leg in the water. The elephant was certainly strong, and he tried his best to get free from this danger sent by providence. Thereafter, seeing Gajendra in that grave condition, his wives felt very, very sorry and began to cry. The other elephants wanted to help Gajendra, but because of Crocodile's great strength, they could not rescue him by grasping him from behind. They were worried themselves, they were to go inside and try to fight the crocodile. Crocodile may catch them. Same with materialist, as long as things are good, we all nice family. But once somebody gets some big trouble, you know, everybody bows down and walks away, walks away, walks away. O king, the elephant and crocodile fought in this way, pulling one another in and out of the water. Now, this is the head of the elephants. He's super strong. He was very proud. For 1,000 years, they were fighting. Upon seeing the fight, the demigods were very surprised. Thereafter, because of being pulled into water and fighting for many long years, the elephant became diminished in mental, physical, and sensual strength. The crocodile, on the contrary, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, physical strength, and sensual power. When the king of the elephants saw that he was under the clutches of the crocodile by the will of providence and being embodied and circumstantially helpless, he could not save himself from danger. He was extremely afraid of being killed. He consequently thought for a long time and finally reached the following decision. What is the decision? This is what he's thinking in his mind. The other elephants, who are my friends and relatives, could not rescue me from this danger. But then to speak of my wives, they cannot do anything. It is by the will of providence that I have been attacked by this crocodile, and therefore I should seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always the shelter of everyone, even of great personalities. Right. So when everybody gives you up, the Supreme Lord is always there in the heart. He's our best friend. Isn't it, Damodar? The Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly not known to everyone, but he's very powerful and influential. Therefore, although the serpent of eternal time, which is fearful in force, endlessly changes everyone, ready to swallow, ready to swallow him. If one who fears the serpent seeks shelter of the Lord gives him protection. For even death runs away in fear of the Lord. I therefore surrender unto him, the great and powerful supreme authority, who is the actual shelter of everyone. So mind you, this he's saying supreme person, but he's not addressing him as Krishna or Lord Rama. He doesn't have clear understanding who Supreme Lord is, but he knows there is Supreme Lord. For his animal body, he doesn't have so much remembrance or understanding of who the Supreme Lord is, but he understands there is Supreme Lord. Yes. So he's praying like that. And then in next verse, which is the verse I wanted to discuss, quote here, chapter 3, text 1, Shukadeva Goswami continued. Thereafter, so here comes the secret. The king of elements, Gajendra, fixed his mind in his heart with perfect intelligence and chanted a mantra which he had learned in his previous birth as Indradumna and which he remembered by the grace of Krishna. So, because he had chanted a lot in his past life, the Maha Mantra, because Gajendra had chanted the holy name a lot in his past life, this Maha Mantra or the mantras he had memorized, it came back to him. Why are we saying here we should remember the 108 verses of Gita? So we're running it a challenge here to memorize 108 verses. And every day we're having a class on these verses. So why? Because if see the life of Gajendra, that he could remember from his past life the mantras he had learned. And now he will offer those prayers. Although he's a body of elephant, but he remembers those special prayers. We're very fortunate to have with us Param Karna Prabhu, who knows thousands of verses, thousands. Practically all these slokas he knows by heart. From the past. This is from this life. So here are the prayers. The king of elephants, Gajendra said. We just read like 3 verses. Prabhu, do you have any favorite verses of this section from Karna Prabhu?
Very first verse, this verse. Evam Vrosata Buddha. He fixes his mind. It is the best verse to.
No, I'm saying from this prayer of
Yes.
Gajendra Mokshan.
Yes.
Do you have any
It is the
specific?
last ones.
Last ones?
Hare Tava Padeke Mule Tasan. He's praying first. He doesn't understand. We'll talk later about that.
Okay. So I offer respectful obeisance unto Supreme Person Vasudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Because of him, this material body acts due to the presence of spirit, and he is therefore the root cause of everyone. He is worshipable for such exalted persons as Brahma and Shiva, and he has entered the heart of every living being. Let me meditate upon him. 1 second. The Supreme. Okay, now we'll go to the end of the last few prayers because, as Prabhu said, are very beautiful prayers. Okay, here you go. My Lord, this is text 28. You are the controller of the formidable strength in 3 kinds of energy. You appear as a reservoir of all sense pleasure and the protector of the slender souls. You possess unlimited energy, but you are unapproachable by those who are unable to control their senses. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. And one more prayer. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose illusory energy, the Jiva, who is part and parcel of God, forgets his real identity because of bodily concept of life. I take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose glories are difficult to understand. So in these words, as we are saying, hearing that these verses, he's remembering the prayers he used to sing in his past life. And as Krishna is saying that today, our discussion words today, Dehinvasmi yatha dehe, that body may change, the soul continues. So there are 3 types of body. There's a spiritual body, there's a subtle body, and the gross body. The subtle body travels with the soul until it becomes completely purified and becomes spiritual also. Subtle body consists of mind, intelligence, and ego. So this Gajendra is able to remember his past life. Most of us, when we take birth, because of the pain of birth, we forget our past lives. But in case of Gajendra, by Krishna's mercy, he could remember in his difficult time the prayers he had chanted in the past. So like that, we are preparing right now for that moment, which will happen in our life also. difficulties will come because this is the nature of material world. Some people think this world is a happy place. Actually, not. It's a world of misery, to be frank. There's bound to be billions of miseries coming in our way. So if we prepare while we're strong, then when it's time for difficulty, then we can remember a lot easily. Okay, any thoughts on this verse before I move to the next one? Yes, Madan
It
Prabhu.
says, in order to worship Krishna, you have to control your senses.
Yeah.
If your senses are uncontrolled, even if you desire to worship Krishna, you cannot, because your mind and senses are dragged left and right by strong material desires.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? That's a sad situation of almost every conditioned soul.
Mm.
We may want to love Krishna or approach Krishna or engage in spiritual life and self-realization, but you cannot because your mind is too attached to the material energy.
Mm.
Therefore, Krishna says in 259 of the Gita, Param Dristva Nivartate. In order to actually succeed, we have to get the higher taste. And Bhagavatam 1.2.16 says you get the higher taste by serving pure Vaishnavas. As soon as you serve a pure Vaishnava, all of a sudden the holy name of Krishna awakens in your heart, and you feel ecstasy when you chant. And when you chant with ecstasy, all anarthas are destroyed, and love of Krishna is gradually awakened.
Mm-hmm.
That first canto, chapter 2, is one of the most powerful chapters of Bhagavatam for neophytes.
Mm-hmm.
It gives these basic instructions on how to get free from material attachment, how to overcome the power of the mind, and how to develop love of God, which simply is based on serving pure devotees of the Lord. If you serve a pure Vaishnava, immediately you feel ecstatic attraction in your heart for Krishna consciousness. Immediately. Even if you're born in Malechadesh, you don't have to be born in Bharatavarsha. Even the Malechas and Yavanas who serve pure devotee, and the pure devotee who came for us is named Srila Prabhupada. You serve his mission by distributing his books, you feel unlimited spiritual pleasure.
Thank you, Shibro. Any comment on this verse?
Thank you for sharing the point. But I want to raise, probably when you saw that the nature of material world is that when difficulty come, everybody say good and they go away.
Yeah.
Actually, they don't want to go away. They're so helpless. Kal, what is that? Guna, karma, kal, adina, deho, ayam, panch, bhautik.
Mm.
Yatha, anyam, to go, so we are ourselves are in the jaws of a snake. How can we save other people? So even if they want to save, I want to save my father, and my father was passing away.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot save. I was helpless. I want to do anything in my world, right? So the nature of murder, yeah, you're right, Prabhu. But I think even if they want to save, they cannot save. So they what they do, just cry, and they forget it. Is that something, Prabhu? Prabhu?
I mean, at that point, even though if you leave the gross body, subtle body, like, will be attached to the soul. That's where we see, like, in so many, like, the popular pastimes in the Bhagavatam, and as well as the modern science is also discovering the reincarnation concept, actually, right, Prabhu? So where we're able to remember some part of it, actually, what happened in the previous life. So that is, yeah, very, like, important factor, actually. We don't just leave our false ego and, like, just like that. It's very, very, very dangerous. And it's very close to the soul.
Yes.
As long as you desire material enjoyment. But when you don't, the Bhagavatam 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj says you dissolve the subtle body. As soon as you dissolve the subtle body, you regain your transcendental spiritual body. By serving a pure Vaishnava, you acquire your original spiritual form.
Mm.
You dissolve the subtle body, which is the prison.
Yes.
It binds you to the material world.
So next verse, Krishna gives us the solution, how to do that, how to break this prison, how to resolve it. Matasparshasthu konteya shitoshno shito sukha dukkada agama paino nityastam tatiksha bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharata, and we must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Purport. In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magha, January to February. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the months of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season. One has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas. And although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge. Because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya. The two different names of Arjuna, sorry, the two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Konteya signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side, and to address him as Bharata signifies his greatness from his father's side. From both sides, he is supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. The reason why I said it connects to this verse because for dissolving the spiritual body, because in this verse Krishna is giving the action. The action is that one should perform one's duty despite of inconveniences. In one sense, you can say because we're all born in the land of India, we have a duty given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is to study the Bhagavatam and share the Bhagavatam with others. That is the number one duty of Indians, and we should supposed to do that no matter how much inconvenience come. I would like to share for this verse a pastime from 10th canto.
In other words, if one is serious about self-realization, one has to persevere in his duty, even when the duty is unpleasant.
Mhm.
That materialists do not do. As soon as something's unpleasant, they give up and go.
What was that? What did you say? I'm sorry.
You have to persevere. That means keep on going.
Mhm.
If the duty is given by the guru, and by the way, we don't create the duty ourselves. The duty is given by the
And no
guru.
matter how difficult the duty is, this is connects to the story which I'm going to share. It's the story of Krishna and Balram. They were given a very difficult task by their teacher. This is described in the chapter 45 of 10th canto. So this is Krishna and Balram had gone to Mathura. They had been reunited with Vasudeva and Devaki. And then Vasudeva and Devaki sent them for education. So this is where the pastime starts. 10th canto, chapter 45.
After all, Krishna does need an education, doesn't he?
He is actually. It's funny. Before even going to school, he exhibited all his qualities in Vrindavan.
Okay, so this is text number 29. That's where it begins. After attaining twice born status through initiation, the Lord, sincere in their vows, took the further vow of celibacy from Gargamuni, the spiritual master of the Yadus. He took Brahmacharya Vrata. Conceding their innately perfect knowledge by their human-like activities, those two omniscient lords of the universe, themselves the origin of all branches of knowledge, next desired to reside at the school of his spiritual master. Thus, they approached Sandipuni Muni, a native of Kashi, living in the city of Avanti. Sandipani thought very highly of these two self-controlled disciples, whom he had obtained so fortuitously, by serving him as devotedly as one would serve the Supreme Lord himself. They showed others an irreproachable example of how to worship the spiritual master. That best of Brahmanas, the spiritual master Sandipani, was satisfied with their submissive behavior, and thus he taught them the entire Vedas, together with their 6 corollaries and the Upanishads. He also taught them the Dhanurveda, his most confidential secrets, the standard books of law, the methods of logical reasoning and philosophical debate, and the sixfold science of politics. O king, those best of persons, Krishna and Balram, being themselves the original promulgators of all varieties of knowledge, could immediately assimilate each and every subject after hearing it explained just once. Thus, with fixed concentration, they learned the 64 arts and skills is in as many days and nights. I mean, 64 skills, 64 arts in 64 days. Thereafter, O king, They satisfied their spiritual master by offering him Guru Dakshina. O king, the learned Brahmana Sandipuni carefully considered the two lords' glorious and amazing qualities and their superhuman intelligence. And after consulting with his wife, he chose as remuneration the return of his young son who had died in the ocean at Prabhas. You know the story?
Yeah.
So be it, replied those two great chariot warriors of limitless might. And they at once mounted the chariot and set off for Prabhasa. When they reached that place, they walked up to the shore and sat down. In a moment, the deity of the ocean, recognizing them to be the supreme lords, approached them with offerings of tribute. The supreme Lord Krishna addressed the Lord of the ocean. Let the son of my Guru be presented at once, the one you seized here with your mighty waves. The ocean replied, O Lord Krishna, it was not I who abducted him, but a demonic descendant of deity named Panchajana, who travels in the waters in the form of a conch. Indeed, the ocean said, that demon has taken him away. Hearing this, Lord Krishna entered the ocean, found Panchajana, and killed him. But the Lord did not find the boy with the demon's belly. What happened? Lord Janardana took the conch shell that had grown around the demon's body and went back to the chariot. Then he proceeded to some Yamani. What is that?
The place where Sandeep Muni was is
No.
no, so oh yeah, the place of Yamaraja.
Yes.
Yeah.
The beloved capital of Yamaraj, some Yamani, the Lord of the Death. Upon arriving there with Lord Balram, he loudly blew his conch shell. What's the name of his conch shell? Panchajana.
You know
He
what
just
the-
got it. And Yamaraj, who keeps the conditioned souls in check, came as soon as he heard the resounding vibration. Yamaraj, actually, the other day I heard this pastime, this Panchajana which we hear. Actually, Panchajana was, it's not that this is the first time Lord Krishna had got the conch shell. He used to have conch shell before also. But one time the conch shell felt a little bit proud. He felt, see, the Mother Lakshmi, she only really gets to hang out with Krishna, with the Supreme Lord. I am always on the lips of Krishna. And because he had this pride, he got cursed to become a demon. And then again, Krishna had to come to bring him back. So he loudly blew his conch shell, and Yamaraj, who keeps the conditioned souls in check, came as soon as he heard the resounding vibration. Yamaraj elaborately worshipped the two lords with great devotion, and then he addressed Lord Krishna, who lives in everyone's heart. O Supreme Lord Vishnu, what shall I do for you? And Lord Balaram, who are playing the part of ordinary humans. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, suffering the bondage of his past activity, my spiritual master's son was brought here to you. O great king, obey my command and bring this boy to me without delay. Yamaraj said, so be it. And he brought forth the Guru's son. Then those two most exalted Yadus presented the boy to the spiritual master and said to him, please select another boon. Krishna Balaram ki.
Jai.
The spiritual master said, my dear boys, you two have completely fulfilled the disciple's obligation to reward his spiritual master. Indeed, with disciples like you, what further desires could a guru have? O heroes, now please return home. May your fame sanctify the world, and may the Vedic hymns be ever fresh in your minds, both in this life and the next. Thus, receiving the Guru's permission to leave, the two lords returned to their city on the chariot, which moved as swiftly as the wind and resounded like a cloud. All the citizens rejoiced upon seeing Krishna and Balram. Krishna Balram ki,
Jai.
whom they had not seen for many days. The people felt like just like those who have lost their wealth and then regained it. So here in this pastime, he's seeing that Krishna and Balram were given also difficult task, so-called difficult task, by the spiritual master, and they executed it. There were difficulties, obstacles. They went for one thing, they couldn't find it. They went another place, couldn't find it. So, like similarly, in this verse, Krishna is saying to Arjuna that one should perform one's duty. And the duty comes from who? My spiritual master. And we have a spiritual master. Who is that? Srila Prabhupada. So he has given us duty, and we execute the services, the instructions he has given us. Like what? Chanting every day 16 rounds of Hare Krishna, waking up early, performing devotional service, reading his books, distributing his literature. And by doing that, we become purified and be able to serve the Lord properly. Any comments on this thing?
Fantastic, bro. Thank you.
The best example of a person who received an impossible order from his guru and carried out under extreme difficulty of old age and disease and so many problems is Prabhupada himself. His guru told him to go to the West and make devotees, which was impossible. And Prabhupada had no money, and he had 2 heart attacks coming over to America, and he had to live in the filthy Bowery where bums were urinating on the sidewalk. Prabhupada had to tolerate inconceivable difficulties to start this movement. And his body was old, and 70 years old, and had many physical, he had 2 heart attacks and had another heart attack shortly after he arrived. But he never slowed down. He just kept on going. That's the best example of carrying out the order of the guru, even when it's very difficult and very unpleasant. That only a pure devotee can do that, can persevere in the face of such horrible obstacles. So Prabhupada is by far the best example of that.
Wow, it's a beautiful note to end. Anybody, any other comment? No? Okay, we're stopping at verse 214. Tomorrow, Damodar Priya will pick it up. Next 3 verses. Shri Prabhupada ki